And finally, the last group, Group F. If any of you guys have made it this far, God bless you. Let's finish off this group. We have
a fun ride.
Kyrgyzstan, we have Thailand, we have Oman, and Saudi Arabia. I actually want to start specifically with Kyrgyzstan first. And here's why, because throughout my entire research of this tournament, I was looking for matches played amongst teams that share the same group where they had played each other before, at least within like the last year.
Oh, okay.
And it's tough to kind of find that, bro.
Yeah.
Like there's so many teams in Asia that it's tough to find these matchups that are scheduled to happen in the Asian Cup actually happening prior. But I finally found one, bro. I finally found one in this group specifically that happened recently with Kyrgyzstan facing off against Oman in the AFC World Cup qualification.
Are they in the same group?
Yeah, same group.
Okay.
Right? Recently happened. Kyrgyzstan hosted Oman, and they won 1-0 at home. And what was truly a crazy atmosphere in Kyrgyzstan. But after watching the highlights, I think it was pretty clear that Oman should have tied the game 1-1. Kyrgyzstan got a little lucky to pull off that result and get all 3 points. But the reason I highlight that matchup is because I believe that matchup will decide who gets second and third place in this group. When you're talking about Oman and Kyrgyzstan, I don't see Thailand getting that. I don't see Thailand falling into that position. We'll talk about that in a second. I do think those two spots are up for grabs between those two teams. And my question is, under the bright lights, with Stefan Tarkovic coaching these guys, can Kyrgyzstan step up in a way that's more impressive than Oman? I think ultimately no. I think that's why when it comes to my analysis of Kyrgyzstan, I have them finishing in third place in this group. Do you agree with that?
I actually have them finishing last. I have them fourth. Kyrgyzstan's so interesting to me because I saw them in 2019, and I'm not even lying. They were one of my favorite teams in 2019. They went off, bro. They lost 3-2 against the UAE in the round of 16 in extra time. They were so close to a quarterfinal appearance. But it wasn't even the results that made me love Kyrgyzstan. It was the way that they approached the game. It was pure offense. Pure offense. I don't think it shows 3-2. They didn't really focus on the defensive end, but it made for such entertaining matches. The problem is that kind of similar to like Vietnam, if you will, Kyrgyzstan, I think, peaked in 2019. They haven't been able to find that exact same form. And since then, their form has been atrocious, bro. I'm going to be completely honest. Other than maybe that 1-0 win against Oman, I don't think they've done much. And I think the recent results that they're getting, the way that they're performing, they just got a new coach. I think Kyrgyzstan's going to have a tough tournament here. So yeah, that's why I have them finishing in fourth place. What's interesting though is that they in 2019 they had these two German-based players, Victor Meyer and Vitali Lux. They both played like in the third or fourth division of Germany. It was crazy. Somehow they had Kyrgyz connection, but dude, they went off. They went absolutely off. But it's gone now. Like they don't have those players anymore, and I think it really shows. Like offensively, Kyrgyzstan is not the same, and I think that inability offensively is why I have them finishing fourth.
Fair enough. So then that makes me interested to know why you have Thailand finishing above them. Let me hear the case for Thailand then.
The only case I have for Thailand is, okay, one, let me establish the ground here. Thailand's just as bad as Kyrgyzstan. They're just as bad, bro.
Okay.
They're really bad form, man. Like terrible
I'm telling you, bro, it's March Madness with these lower level teams, bro. It's anybody.
It's the perfect way to describe it, because if Kyrgyzstan end up above Thailand, I won't be surprised. But I have Thailand finishing above Kyrgyzstan for one reason and one reason only. And it's that I think at club level, they've done a little bit more. Buriram United had a decent Champions League campaign, and Bangkok United, well, they literally got into the knockout stages of the Champions League. The way that they play, I think, is good off the ball. They're decent passers. I think where Thailand really struggle right now, though, is, and this will sound very familiar, it's offensively.
Oh, yeah.
They just don't really have an offense. They don't have players that can take anybody on one-on-one, and they're not great when they need to connect in the final third. The thing is, I think they're better than Kyrgyzstan. I think Kyrgyzstan's in the worst form in the last 5 years. Thailand is too, though. But I think Thailand just plays slightly better football, but I mean slightly. And it's that slight margin why I have them in third.
Yeah, I think the reason, because Thailand has also been very vocal online in these online communities, wanting people to buy into them. The reason I don't buy into them is because when you're a team of this quality, you need a good system in place to be able to thrive, to be able to maximize your potential. And I'm thrown off by the fact that their newest hiring, their new coach, Masatada Ishii, has only had one game, bro, to input his tactics.
What?
That sounds like a nightmare for a team that could lose to like FC Dallas's U15. They need proper coaching. They need a guy that can motivate them, that can do well for them. Maybe on the emotional level, Ishii can find a way to connect with these guys and just continue playing the way that they have. But in terms of inputting his tactics, his philosophy, there's been no room to do that. And I question why they fired their prior head coach so close to this tournament. I think something crazy must have happened there. But overall, I think it's a bad move that will result in them getting fourth place in this group. They have a defense that cannot be trusted as well. Obviously, Japan is the best team in this tournament. They played against them. Japan put 5 past them. Georgia put 8 past these guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think every team they face in this group will give them tons of trouble because I agree they don't have the offense to offset what they're going to have coming their way in the next month, bro. It's really tough for them. I just think from the coaching aspect, that's ultimately what gives me the ick about this team that I can't buy into.
It sucks because in 2019, Thailand had a great performance. They went into the round of 16, put up a valiant performance. They got out in that round. But the fact that they're able to get to that stage, I was like, oh shit, okay, Thailand's got something about them. So much so that I tried to follow Thailand for the next 2 years, but they peaked in 2019, bro. They really did. And similar to Kyrgyzstan, they've just been down since. But I think Thai football locally is a little bit better than Kyrgyz, so I'll put them third.
Second place, we got Oman.
Second place, we got Oman.
Oh, man. Not again. Number 74 in FIFA rankings, coached by Branko Ivankovic, the Croatian. A lot of Croatians over here leading these teams.
And he's been coaching for the last 4 or 5 years, too.
Oh, damn.
Okay, so he's been in it for
tenure in Asia.
He's got tenure.
Damn. 2 very solid friendly results leading into this tournament with victories over China and the UAE. And the results for the last year actually look pretty promising from what I've seen in terms of their resume.
Oh, yeah.
I have them in second place because of their attacking weapons, their technical ability being higher than what Kyrgyzstan and Thailand have to offer, and the momentum heading into the tournament, because I do think that just winning games going into a tournament this big does matter for teams of this caliber. So to just continue that and get second place, I think it's very feasible for them given the weaker teams in this group.
I like Oman. I've liked Oman for a long time. In 2019, they really proved to me and to the world that they have kind of punched above their weight. Because for the longest time, Oman, wasn't a team to be worried about. But in 2019, they got past the group stage, went into the round of 16, and I'll be honest, they got completely screwed over by the most crooked referee in CONCACAF, Cesar Ramos.
Dirty football. Completely
screwed over. That was a cheap penalty against Iran, and it kind of dictated the rest of the result. But beyond that, they were able to go on and improve their performances. They got to the last stage of World Cup qualifying. They were in the same group as Vietnam. Very tough group with Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Japan. But Oman have played really good football. At club level, the team Al Seeb won the AFC Cup last year. The first Omani team to ever win a continental title in history. And it's the equivalent of like winning the Europa League, if you will. So that's a huge landmark for Omani football. And mind you, almost all of the players for Oman play in Oman. That's crazy. So they completely rely on themselves to be successful, but it's worked. Very similar to Uzbekistan, very similar to Tajikistan. Oman have done it in the Middle East to rely on themselves to be very good, and it's worked. This Oman team gets pretty good results. I say the only thing on the reason why I don't think they'll make a deep run is they do just like a little bit of, let's say, pizzazz going forward. They rely on one another, but the level is low. But it's good enough to beat, for example, Kyrgyzstan and Thailand. It's definitely good enough. But is it good enough to crack into the quarterfinals? Probably not. Either way, though, I do have them finishing second in this group.
And the last group left to analyze in this entire tournament is none other than Saudi Arabia, the team that won our hearts at the 2022 World Cup with an insane victory over the world champions Argentina. 2-1. What a crazy game. Number 56 in FIFA rankings going into this tournament. Now coached by Roberto Mancini.
Crazy.
Ridiculous. Coming off of Hervé Renard resigning and leaving this team, Roberto Mancini comes in, a coach that has won the biggest of titles with Italy, specifically the Euros, and they still have so much talent here to play with guys such as Mohamed Kano, Al Dawsari, Abdul Hamid, Al Buraiken, Al Sheri. This Saudi Arabian team has always had so much talent, and I think they're just going to continue utilizing that to gain success in these tournaments. They've tested themselves with Venezuela, Bolivia, Costa Rica, South Korea, and Mali friendlies, all of which they lost. Yeah. But they've tested themselves.
Sure.
They have the best quality in this group, I think, by far, and they will top it, in my opinion. But the question for Saudi Arabia is, can they actually be considered contenders? And the answer to that question is no. It's a resounding no. Because to me, Saudi Arabia, I see them as a fringe team. I see them as like a 5th or 6th ranked team in the AFC region. To be a contender, you got to be in the top 4, maybe even the top 2 or 3. And I just don't see them being able to do that just yet. I think if anything, they want to have a good showing here in preparation for what will be their own AFC Asian Cup hosted in their own country in 2027. By then, maybe even more studs will develop for the Saudi Arabian team and they'll have more momentum and more to go off of. But for now, I see them topping this group, but I don't see them contending for the title.
So I see this team very similar to Iran in the sense that I think the crop of players that they have right now is their golden generation at their peak. When you look at a lot of their best players, they're in their mid to late 20s. So if you're talking about the next Asian Cup, they'll be past 30 years old. And that kind of scares me. Because I think Saudi Arabia, like Iran, have to capitalize on the prime talent that they have right now. And you already said it, you don't see them as title contenders. And that, it worries me. It kind of saddens me. I don't like hearing that, but I agree. It's just a little frustrating because when you look at Saudi Arabia, and so this crop of players have played together for the last 10 years. Almost all of them. They had a weird 2018, one where they were very jittery, very nervous, but they kind of made it up in 2022. The way that they qualified for the campaign and World Cup qualifying was phenomenal. And they had the craziest opener with that win against Argentina 2-1. And a phenomenal performance led by Hervé Renard as coach. But here's the scary thought. Was that game against Argentina Saudi Arabia's peak?
Yeah, man, it really could have been.
It might be.
I don't know if I'm willing to fully commit to the idea that this
they haven't won a game this year.
This is the end, because I think there's so much more to learn from Saudi Arabia and what comes of the game there specifically versus like Iran, because of what's happening at the foundational level with all the money they're putting into the clubs, all the money they're willing to spend, the way they're willing to develop talent. I think there's more to find out about Saudi Arabia in the next 10 years than Iran. So I think there's more pressure for Iran to deliver. I don't get so saddened by the idea that maybe Saudi Arabia fails at this tournament, because I think this next crop might actually be really good for them that comes 5-10 years from now.
I agree. The pressure's on Iran this tournament, way more so than it is on Saudi Arabia. But the reason why I'm just worried about Saudi Arabia, because I'm worried, will the next crop of players actually come? I mean, I'm talking about players like Al Faraj, Mohamed Kano, Al Sharani, who's not even here anymore, Al Dawsari, who's 31. This is it.
Amazing.
This is it for Al Dawsari, the best Saudi Arabian footballer over the last 10 years. He will not be the same in 2027. He will not have the pace, not have the physicality. I think he'll be here, but he'll be 35.
Yeah.
And so that's a completely different type of team you have. But you can say that about a lot of these players. Mohamed Kano too, he's like in his late 20s. He's not going to be the same come 2027. So I get worried when I think about Saudi Arabia, because you have to trust that the next crop of players is just as good. I don't know if that answer is yes. And here's the thing. Unlike Australia, they're not trying them. This team is largely the exact same. It's pure experience. It's pure players in the prime. There's almost no young player getting called up. It's all the same guys, which is a good thing as far as like going for it, trying to win the tournament. But when you look at the bigger picture, I get worried because if they did peak in that game against Argentina, then Saudi Arabia is kind of done for. When you compare them to Iran, Korea, Australia, Japan, and a rising Uzbekistan.
I don't see it that grim because I think everything they're doing right now is building the foundation for the youth to thrive on an even bigger level in the future.
There's no youth right now though. They're not
because
here.
They're kids. I'm talking about the kids that don't even play football. Bro, some kid saw their Saudi Arabian national team beat Messi, bro. Imagine what that's going to do for their fucking mentality growing up. And then they grow up in a league, the Saudi Pro League, seeing, bringing in these major talents like Benzema, Conte, Jordan Henderson, if you want to throw his name in there too.
Please.
Throwing in these big names, and you're seeing your league just grow and suddenly just immerse itself into the footballing world on a crazy, crazy scale that I don't think is comparable to any other country that has experienced the downfall of a golden generation. You could bring up like a team like Chile, who went down their golden generation. They had nothing else to give. Like that was it for them. The stakes were so much higher because at the club level, there's nothing happening.
Okay,
for Saudi Arabia, I'm actually somewhat hopeful because I've never seen a country undergo just the process they're trying to put their whole country through, and I'm just gonna wait it out until I can be that grim about it, bro, because I truly do think a bunch of these Saudi Arabian kids, the youth, saw some crazy shit happen at the World Cup, has seen what's happened at the league level as well, and I think that might end up paying off in the future because it'll be crazy if Saudi Arabia puts so much money into their own country's league and doesn't see it pan out with at least somewhat of a formidable Saudi Arabian national team.
Okay, I can't argue against that. I actually can't. That's an excellent point. I don't see a flaw in that. I'm personally looking at the next 3 years, 24 to 26. And if this team can't compete and get to a semifinal this year, then they're not doing nothing at 26.
Oh, okay, I'll agree with that.
They're not doing nothing.
I can find it.
And that's why I find it grim. Because I was hoping, like Iran, that this Saudi Arabian team would build into their final form at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But if they can't have a good performance here at this Asian Cup, I think it's over. And the thing is, you're right. There's a lot of young talent waiting to be unearthed. Al-Hossawi for Al-Ittihad, one of the most exciting right backs probably in Asia, bro. There's that. And if you consider all the teenagers that are playing right now, like there's so much that could happen for Saudi Arabia. I'm thinking a little bit more short term, which I guess is why I'm going a little more grim.
Sure.
But it is how I feel right now about the Saudi Arabian team. So personally, I have a lot of pressure on them. I have a lot of pressure on them because I want them to do well now, because if they don't, 26 is a wash for them. It's a wash.
But I think they're one of the few teams that can have that exception because it actually fits perfectly in their timeline for 2034 when they host the World Cup. And that gives them 8 years to reset. They have to in this generation has to die. They have to die for this newfound 100%. Pharaoh-like, Phoenix-like generation to rise from the ashes and play the best Saudi Arabian football imaginable when they host the World Cup in 2034. So I think it's just the process of life maybe that I'm seeing for Saudi Arabia. But for you, it's you want a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yes. Seriously, it really is just. I'm looking right now, and I'm not even looking to the future. I'm looking at, can the Saudi Arabian team maximize the talent that they have, and I'm worried that they can't. But when at the bigger picture, my argument doesn't really apply.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't apply.